Anger is not rare. It rises quickly, often faster than thought. A careless word, a broken promise, an unfair action, and suddenly irritation is there. It spreads into our tone, our choices, even our sleep. Left unchecked, it shapes more of our lives than we want to admit. That is why anger is not a small matter. It is a constant challenge, one that decides whether we control our days or our days control us. Few emotions claim as much territory in ordinary life, and few do as much hidden damage when ignored. In the workplace, anger takes the form of injustice. You speak with preparation, the room ignores you. Minutes later, someone else repeats your idea and earns the praise. The sting is immediate, resentment settles in, and every look at that colleague feels heavier. What began as a single meeting now lingers into the week. Anger turns cooperation into silent rivalry. It eats at concentration, distorts judgment, and shifts focus from the task to the offender. Projects slow, trust dissolves, and soon the office is no longer about work, but about unspoken conflict. What was once teamwork becomes a battlefield of suppressed irritation. At home, anger shows itself in familiar patterns. A partner forgets an important commitment. A child refuses to listen after repeated reminders. A sibling throws a careless remark across the table. These are not strangers, they are the people closest to us. That is why the sting feels deeper. The place where we expect trust becomes the place where irritation grows fastest. Home, meant to be a refuge, becomes instead a testing ground of patience. The words spoken in heat last longer than the moment. They echo, changing the atmosphere of the household. A small flare of temper can cast a shadow over an entire evening. On the road, anger ignites in seconds. A driver swerves into your lane without signaling. Another leans on the horn, though the light is still red. In the rush of traffic, strangers become enemies. The anger does not stay behind the wheel. It follows into the office, into the home, into the next conversation, already shaping words that had nothing to do with the incident. This is why road rage feels so corrosive. It multiplies. What was originally a 5-second irritation becomes the lens through which the next hour is lived. The mind, once unsettled, does not easily return to calm. Online, anger multiplies without limit. A sarcastic reply to your comment, a message read but ignored, a stranger twisting your words to draw ridicule from others. The speed of digital life leaves no pause for reflection. Anger bursts out instantly, often with words typed faster than they should be, and the aftertaste remains long after the screen goes dark. The problem is scale. In a single hour, one can receive more provocation through messages and posts than Marcus Aurelius might have faced in a week. Without training, the heart is pulled into constant reactivity, chained to the mood of the crowd. Even in small routines, anger appears. The grocery line moves too slowly. The delivery arrives late and damaged. Someone litters in a park. These events are minor, but together they grind down patience. By the end of the day, the mind is raw, ready to snap at the next small trigger. These small irritations teach us something important. Anger does not require a great injustice to grow. It thrives even in the cracks of daily inconvenience. The discipline we practice here matters as much as in the larger conflicts. All of these are our daily landscapes, different in detail but the same in structure. Expectation collides with reality, and anger rises. The pressing question is clear. If life brings these provocations at every corner, how can we keep from being ruled by them? This is where we turn to Marcus Aurelius. For him, anger was not only familiar, it was inevitable. Yet his response was different. He trained himself to expect insult, to prepare for betrayal, to accept inconvenience without surprise. His approach was not indifference but mastery, a choice to meet provocation without surrendering his peace. What would Marcus Aurelius do in the face of these very situations? That is the question we now take forward. His answer, drawn from Stoic discipline, was not to wait for the world to change, but to change the judgment that gives anger its fuel. Only then does peace remain unbroken. Why do human beings get angry? Why do we become disturbed by others? Marcus Aurelius returned again and again to this question. He observed that the cause lies not in events themselves, but in our judgments. If you are pained by any external thing, he wrote, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now. This is the core of the Stoic view. Events take place, people act as they will. Circumstances unfold in ways we cannot fully predict. None of these come to us carrying built-in harm or offense. They are facts, not insults. What creates disturbance is the layer of judgment we add. When we decide that what happened is unbearable, when we tell ourselves it should not have been this way, anger is born. Think of a colleague who takes credit for your work. The action itself is a fact. Words were spoken, recognition was given to the wrong person. The anger that rises does not come from the fact alone. It comes from the judgment. This is unjust, and I cannot tolerate it. That interpretation is the true spark. Or think of a driver cutting into your lane. The car moves, that is the fact. The anger arrives from the story we attach. He disrespected me, he endangered me on purpose. The event is over in seconds, but the judgment lingers, feeding anger long after the traffic clears. Marcus saw clearly that our expectations set the stage. We expect honesty, loyalty, competence. When reality falls short, the gap between expectation and fact becomes the breeding ground of anger. The wider the gap, the sharper the reaction. He did not deny that offenses hurt, but he insisted the sting grows when we add judgments of necessity. People must not lie. Friends must never betray. Strangers must always show respect. These are wishes disguised as laws, and when reality disobeys, we feel wronged. Anger thrives on these hidden demands. The Stoics trained themselves to expect imperfection. Epictetus told his students, prepare each day to meet selfish, ungrateful, and ignorant people. Marcus echoed this almost word for word in his notes. When you wake in the morning, tell yourself, today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. These reminders were not pessimism. They were armor. To expect virtue from all is to set yourself up for injury. To expect weakness is to walk into the day already shielded. Another root of anger lies in pride. We measure our worth by how others treat us. If they fail to recognize us, we feel diminished. If they insult us, we feel stripped of dignity. But this judgment places control of our value in someone else's hands. Marcus reminded himself that integrity cannot be stolen. If another acts unjustly, the damage belongs first to their character, not ours. Their act shows what they are, not what we are. Fear is another hidden root. Leaders rage because they fear loss of authority. Parents shout because they fear failure in their children. Anger often disguises itself as strength, but beneath it lies insecurity. Marcus confronted this by naming fear when he felt it. By facing the root, he stripped anger of its false mask. Even fatigue and pain create openings. A tired body, a restless mind. Small offenses suddenly feel enormous. Marcus wrote often about bearing sickness and discomfort without complaint, because he knew weakness sharpens irritability. To be aware of this is to know when anger is not about the offense at all, but about our condition. Through all these reflections, one point remains steady. Anger is not imposed by the world. It is constructed by the mind. Events are neutral. Our judgment makes them heavy or light, bearable or unbearable. If we wish to resist anger, the task is not to demand a different world, but to discipline our own judgments. This understanding is only the beginning. If judgment is the root, the next question is practical. How do we train judgment so it does not betray us? How did Marcus Aurelius, confronted daily with insults, betrayals, and disappointments, keep his mind from turning them into anger? That is the step we must take next. Anger is everywhere today, in offices, in traffic, in homes, and on our screens. It seems impossible to escape, but Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the event itself does not disturb us, our judgment does. If we change the judgment, we cut anger at the root. His meditations are full of reminders. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This principle applies with brutal clarity in the situations we face each day. At work, someone undermines you, takes credit for your project, or spreads rumors. The natural reaction is indignation. Marcus would instruct himself differently. The wrong clings to the wrongdoer, not to you. If you explode, you join them in their corruption. To remain steady is to refuse partnership in their fault. He would write, "The offender has done you wrong, enough. He has harmed himself, not you." The Stoic task is to see the injury resting on their character. Your composure, if held, makes you untouchable. In traffic or public lines, impatience surges. A driver cuts you off. Someone shoves past. Bureaucracy wastes your time. Here Marcus applies control of judgment. If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. He taught himself that obstacles belong to nature. To demand a world free of inconvenience is to demand what never existed. The anger that follows is self-inflicted. But if you judge it small, if you refuse to label it intolerable, it shrinks into nothing more than delay. This discipline transforms daily irritations into training for steadiness. Family life brings sharper wounds. A partner lashes out unfairly, a child disobeys, relatives bring up old grievances. Marcus prepares in advance. Today I shall meet with ingratitude, insolence, ill will. By expecting imperfection, he disarms the sting when it comes. The Stoic discipline here is to separate love from frustration. People err, that is their burden. Anger only doubles your pain. To endure calmly is not weakness, it is strength. Because you choose not to hand control of your peace to another. On social media, provocation is endless. Insults arrive from strangers who know nothing of you. The instinct is to strike back. Marcus would instead recall, when someone opposes you, their action springs from their view of what is good. How can you blame them for acting on what seems right to them? He reframes offense as error in judgment, not personal assault. By treating attacks as misguided opinions, you preserve your clarity. Their words harm only their credibility. To retaliate is to hand them authority over your mind. Even in illness and personal loss, the Stoic guard against anger. The body weakens, plans collapse, life feels unfair. Marcus endured sickness and grief but reminded himself, nature owes you nothing free of hardship. To demand otherwise is to quarrel with reality itself. The wise response is endurance. Do not be overheard complaining, he wrote, not even to yourself. Anger against fate changes nothing but corrodes character. You earn, outwardly, the same looks which you carry. To accept is to remain whole. Modern life tempts us to believe we are entitled to ease, but Stoicism insists resilience grows only through trial. Betrayal tests us most deeply. Friends deceive, colleagues scheme, trust is broken. Most people answer with fury. Marcus prepared himself for this too. He saw betrayal as weakness, born of ignorance or fear. To respond with rage would be to mirror the betrayer. The Stoic answer is steadiness. Punish if duty requires, but without hatred. By refusing anger, you deny them power over your inner state. Their act stains them, not you. The true measure of strength is not how loudly one retaliates, but how firmly one guards their own integrity. Across all these cases, Marcus's method is constant. Suspend the judgment that gives rise to anger. Refuse to say this should not be, and instead remind yourself this is what human beings do. Events cannot break you, only your opinion about them can. In that space between event and judgment lies freedom. The freedom to remain calm, steady, and unbroken in a world designed to provoke. This is not passivity, but mastery. The rare power to govern oneself when all else feels out of control. The secret to Marcus Aurelius's composure was not temperament alone, but Stoic philosophy. His calm was not an accident of personality, but the result of discipline. At the heart of Stoicism lies a clear distinction between what is up to us and what is not up to us. Our opinions, our choices, our actions, these lie within our control. The behavior of others, the judgments of society, the blows of chance, these lie outside it. To fasten anger to what is outside our control is to guarantee frustration. Marcus knew this. If peace is to be preserved, it must be guarded at the point of judgment. He reminded himself daily, if someone insults you, the insult is not within your control. What is yours is the choice of how to interpret it. If you judge it intolerable, it grows into anger. If you judge it trivial, it dissolves. The words themselves carry no necessity of pain. They are only sounds, signs of another's thoughts. The sting comes from the meaning you attach. In this gap between event and response lies freedom. Marcus held firmly to that gap. Consider the ordinary irritations of daily life. A colleague interrupts you in a meeting, a neighbor complains without cause, a stranger mocks your choices. Most would reply with heat, justifying themselves, defending their dignity. Marcus saw the trap. In reacting with fury, you hand over control of your mind. He chose instead to think. The wrongdoer has done you wrong. Enough. He has harmed himself, not you. To him, every act of malice rebounded back on the doer, staining their own character. The only way it could stain his was if he let anger take hold. Another anchor of his composure was the awareness of life's brevity. He observed how quickly time erases both the offender and the offended. Soon you will have forgotten all things, and soon all will have forgotten you. To burn in anger against another is to consume what little time you have. Worse, it consumes that time in poison. Marcus wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? The slight that sparks rage passes in a moment, but the corruption of character endures." Thus, he reminded himself that every act of anger is a misallocation of life itself. This perspective extended to loss, betrayal, and hardship. If fortune turned against him, he did not rage at the universe. If a friend proved false, he did not waste himself in hatred. He taught that nature gives no guarantees, and to quarrel with nature is useless. What belongs to us is not the shape of events, but the shape of our response. That is the fortress we can hold. Finally, Marcus practiced compassion as a conscious discipline. He did not deny that men lie, cheat, or injure. He explained them instead as acting from ignorance, as brothers who fail to know better. If a man stole, Marcus asked, what compelled him? Hunger, desire, confusion. If a man spoke cruelty, Marcus reasoned, he believed this to be right, or at least advantageous. It is not their fault that they are ignorant, he told himself, but ours if we cannot bear with them. To see wrongdoing as error rather than malice, stripped away the fuel of anger. This did not make him indifferent to justice. Wrong acts still required correction. But he refused to add hatred to justice, for hatred poisoned the one who held it. The Stoic aim was to act rightly without disturbance, to punish if duty required, but never with rage, to correct without venom. Marcus regarded anger as self-harm, an acid poured first into his own soul. Philosophy was his antidote. By holding fast to these principles, control of judgment, awareness of life's shortness, and compassion toward others, Marcus built a discipline strong enough to withstand insult, betrayal, and loss. His calm was not passivity, it was mastery. And in that mastery lay the proof of Stoicism, that no man or event can rob us of peace unless we surrender it. The tale of the man whose event can rob us of peace unless we surrender it. The world we inhabit is not ancient Rome, but the triggers of anger remain. We face traffic jams, workplace politics, online insults, and family conflicts. The scenery has changed, but the inner challenge is unchanged. How do we keep our peace in the midst of provocation? Marcus Aurelius never saw a smartphone or a rush hour freeway, but the principles he practiced apply as directly to us as they did to him. The scale may be smaller, but the battle is the same. The fight to govern one's mind rather than be governed by impulse. First, we can practice anticipation. Marcus began each morning by reminding himself, "Today I will meet with arrogance, deceit, ingratitude, and selfishness." He did not speak this to make himself bitter, but to prepare his mind. If the day unfolded kindly, he was grateful. If rudeness arrived, he was not shaken. This exercise disarms surprise, which is often the sharpest edge of anger. When we expect imperfection, we are ready to meet it calmly. In modern life, this is just as useful. We know the meeting may run late, the inbox will overflow, or the traffic will crawl. To be shocked by this is to live unprepared. To accept it beforehand is to step into the day armored, ready to endure without complaint. Second, we must examine our judgments. This is the Stoic core. Marcus taught himself to ask, is it the act itself that disturbs me, or my judgment about it? If the disturbance lies in judgment, then it lies in my power to change. A driver cuts you off. Does that truly injure you, or does the judgment, "This is unbearable," do the harm? A colleague takes credit for your work. Does that touch your character or only your pride? By returning to this question, we shift from instinctive reaction to deliberate choice. The world does not dictate our anger. Our interpretation does. This shift of perspective is subtle but radical, for it reclaims sovereignty over the mind. It transforms us from victims of circumstance into rulers of our own state. Third, practice alignment with principle. Marcus often reminded himself, what kind of person do I wish to be? If insulted, do I want to resemble the insulter or to remain steady? If wronged, do I wish to double the harm by poisoning myself with rage? The question, what would Marcus remind himself here, can be a powerful check. He would recall that wrong actions rebound on the wrongdoer. He would see that dignity is preserved by self-command, not retaliation. To align with principle is to let character, not emotion, guide response. This is the difference between reacting as a creature of impulse and acting as a human being trained in reason. Practical exercises strengthen this discipline. One is journaling at night, reviewing the day's events. Where did I lose my calm? Where did I hold steady? The page becomes a mirror, showing patterns that can be corrected. Another is perspective taking. When insulted, pause and recall that the offender acts from ignorance or from a mistaken view of good. He harms himself first by staining his own character. To see this truth reduces the urge to retaliate. A further exercise is to remember death. Ask, will this matter in a year, a month, even a week? The vast majority of provocations collapse under this test. Anger shrinks when seen against the horizon of mortality. And finally, one may practice deliberate pauses. A single breath before speaking, a single count before answering. In that small space, judgment is given time to intervene before passion takes over. In our age of constant digital distraction, these practices are more urgent than ever. Social media amplifies outrage, rewarding those who provoke and insult. Marcus's method is an antidote. Do not hand over your peace to strangers on a screen. Their words, however loud, do not enter your soul unless you let them. The Stoic shield is to treat them as noise, not as truth. What matters is not the insult, but whether you guard your integrity in response. For every post that sparks fury, there is the hidden choice. Will you train your mind, or will you feed your anger? At home, in families, the test is closer to the heart. A partner speaks harshly, a child disobeys, relatives revive old disputes. Here, Marcus's preparation is vital. Expect imperfection, love without illusion. To react with rage is to wound twice, once from the offense, once from your own response. Better to separate affection from frustration, to guide with firmness but not fury. Anger breaks trust, composure preserves it. Parents who master their temper model strength more eloquently than any words. Spouses who bear differences calmly build a foundation of resilience. In the workplace, politics and competition abound. Marcus would remind us, the honor of success lies not in recognition from others, but in fidelity to principle. If another takes credit dishonestly, they bear the burden of that act. If you remain steady, you remain clean. Your peace is proof of strength. In the long run, integrity outlasts slander. Anger may win a moment, but discipline secures a life. Across all these arenas, the Stoic task is constant. Anticipate what will come. Examine your judgments. Align with principle. Reflect in practice. Remember death. And in all of it, hold to the truth Marcus Aurelius lived. Events cannot break you, only your opinion can. Between stimulus and response lies freedom. The freedom to remain calm, steady, and unbroken in a world designed to provoke. From Marcus Aurelius, we learn that peace is possible even in a world of turmoil. His life proves that tranquility is not a gift of circumstance, but a discipline of mind. He ruled an empire without allowing anger to rule him. He faced betrayal without bitterness, insult without resentment, and suffering without despair. His example shows us that peace is not a passive condition, but an active practice, a skill to be trained daily. The lesson is simple but demanding. Anger is optional. Disturbance is optional. We cannot control what others say or do, but we can control our judgments and our responses. This is the Stoic separation of what is up to us and what is not. To attach our happiness to what lies outside our command is to guarantee misery. To keep our stability rooted in what we alone govern is to guarantee strength. To live this way is to build a fortress within the mind. It does not mean we feel nothing. It means we choose how far external events may enter. Marcus wrote that life's provocations may knock at the door, but it is the judgment that decides whether they come inside. To welcome every insult or disappointment into our inner house is to give away sovereignty. To close the door with calm refusal is to remain master of the self. Marcus himself put it best, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the essence of how he never let others disturb him. It was not because the world was kind, but because he trained himself to be stronger than its provocations. He understood that anger harms the one who carries it more than the one who provokes it. To surrender to fury is to hand over freedom. To keep calm is to remain free. This training demands practice. Each morning, Marcus prepared his expectations. Today, I will meet with selfishness, deceit, arrogance. By naming these realities, he stripped them of their sting. When they appeared, he was not ambushed. The practice was not pessimism but realism, the Stoic habit of anticipating the trials of the day and meeting them with readiness. Another discipline was reflection. At night, he reviewed where he had failed, where he had held firm. He did not write in his journal for an audience, but as a physician of the soul, examining the wounds of the day. By doing so, he made philosophy a living practice, not a set of abstract ideas. The task was always the same: to strengthen reason, to weaken passion, and to preserve the dignity of calm. The world today is different, yet the provocations are familiar. Online insults, workplace politics, family conflicts, all are modern forms of the same human impulses Marcus encountered. The Stoic answer is not changed. When insulted, remember, the offense belongs to the offender. When betrayed, remember, the act reveals their weakness, not your worth. When inconvenienced, remember, To demand a life free of obstacles is to quarrel with reality. Each event is less important than the response we choose. And so the challenge is ours, to prepare each day for what will come, to meet weakness with understanding, to meet insult with perspective, to meet suffering with courage, to meet life with calm. This is not the easy path, but it is the path of freedom. It demands vigilance, humility, and constant return to principle. But it gives in exchange something priceless: the ability to live without being enslaved by anger. If Marcus Aurelius could practice this discipline as emperor, burdened with responsibility, surrounded by conflict, pressed by betrayal, then we can attempt it in our smaller lives. We may not govern nations, but we govern ourselves. That governance, Stoicism teaches, is the highest duty and the truest strength. The task is always present: to master judgment, to guard peace, and to remain unbroken no matter what the world delivers. If this reflection on Marcus Aurelius speaks to you, carry it forward into your own life. Begin tomorrow with anticipation, end the day with reflection, and in between, choose not to hand your peace to others. At Sophoria, we explore these timeless lessons so you can live with greater clarity, resilience, and calm. Subscribe to join us on this journey. Share your thoughts in the comments. How do you practice keeping your peace when life tests you? Let's build this discipline together.